Please, if you have your video feed on, kindly put it off so that it does not affect our bandwidth. Mr. Lawrence, please put off your video, and any other person that has a video feed on, please put it off so that it doesn't drag our bandwidth. All right, so it's a brand new week, and there are a lot of reports that are expected to be released fundamentally, in the course of this week. Today, Monday, there's no fundamental, and even Canada is having a bank holiday. So we may expect some instruments to have irregular movement like ranging or just uh, just irregular movement generally. So we have to trade with a lot of caution on today, Monday. Now, Tuesday, there'll be claimants count change, average earning index by 7 a.m. Now, both of these instruments could actually move the market. Now, I'm going to show you the instrument I'm looking at, the key instrument I'm looking at for the week, and how the news of this week and even that of last week, will impact on them. And on Tuesday, also, we're going to be having CPI monthly, common CPI yearly, median CPI yearly, trim CPI yearly from Canada. So a lot of volatility is expected tomorrow on the Canadian dollar. And pending home sales from the US is also going to be a tradable event. So tomorrow, Tuesday, expect a lot of volatility in the market. On Wednesday, there'll be CPI and from the United Kingdom by 7 a.m. And there'll be FOMC meeting minutes. Now, this is not the main FOMC, but then it may give some reaction, though it's going to be later in the day by 7 p.m. So if you're a day trader, you may not need to bother about the FOMC from the US. But that CPI from United Kingdom, please pay a lot of attention to it. On Thursday, there'll be employment change and unemployment rate from Australia. This will definitely move the market. It's going to come up by 2:30 a.m. So watch out. You can try to stay awake, or just if you want to trade it, the opportunity is there. And same Thursday, there'll be French flash manufacturing PMI, French flash services PMI, German flash manufacturing PMI, German flash services PMI, all from the Eurozone between 8:15 and 8:30 a.m. And Thursday, same Thursday, there's going to be flash manufacturing PMI and flash services PMI from the United Kingdom by 9:30 a.m. And the US will have the Philly Fed Manufacturing Index, unemployment claims, flash manufacturing PMI. So Thursday is devoted to all these flash manufacturing PMI and flash services PMI. So volatility is expected generally in the market on Thursday likewise. And on Friday, we're going to have retail sales from United Kingdom. This will likely move the market. And there'll be core retail sales and retail sales from Canada. Now, these are actually medium impact events, but notwithstanding, they may still move the market. And that's in Friday. There'll be revised UN consumer sentiment. Now, this news may not move the market so much, but because it's going to take place on Friday, end of the week, volatility may set in because that'll be 3 p.m. and that may lead to some volatility in the market. All right, so these are the major news we need to watch out for the week. Now, I'll show you the instruments I have for this week and how it relates to both the news of last week and this week also. Now, there are 4 key instruments I'm looking at for this week. I'm looking at the Euro AUD, the Euro NZD, the GBP AUD, and the GBP NZD. You may choose to take Euro AUD, GBP AUD, Euro NZD, or GBP NZD. The choice is yours, but don't trade all 4 of them. Now, what I mean is I just take 2, either the GBP or the Euro, any of the 2 like that. Now, this is the Euro AUD. On the weekly time frame, this instrument actually closed last week as a rejection candle. You can see the previous week closed as a rejection candle, and last week also closed as a rejection candle. Different types of doji. They are both doji. But this one shows that there's more pressure going up because we can see it as a long. The other one is just a doji with a short lower shadow with a long lower shadow. That didn't give much of the movement required, expected rather. But the one that closed last week closed ready at the support zone to break to the upside, a long lower shadow, and a short upper shadow. That's an indication of a bullish movement. Not only that, it also closed on a support zone. You can see previous long lower shadows here forming a support. So technically, we're looking at a bullish movement in the market this week. Excuse me. So we're looking at a long movement in the market this week. And we can see on the daily time frame, we already have the bulls, taking over the market. And on the 4-hour time frame, we have a falling wedge already in place, indicating that, and price has now broken out above the uh, trend line of the falling wedge pattern. Now, when you have a falling wedge pattern, technically price is expected to make its way up. Now, that this is a purely swing setup. All the setup I'm showing you that purely swing for the week, but then you may enter based on your trading strategy on a lower time frame. Now, I'm also seeing now two things can happen here because there's a minor resistance around here. There's a minor resistance here. That's the tip of this candle and the current candle. Now, two things could either happen. This may end up forming an inverse head and shoulder, of which we may have a retracement and still break out to the upside. Or if price breaks out above this area, above this box, then we have a further continued bullish movement. Either way it happens, we are very, very bullish, strongly bullish on the Euro AUD for this week. And Euro NZD, so I'm very bullish on the Euro AUD. So let me show you the profit potential in this. Okay, now this is one reason why we need to be careful also. Price is currently trading around a Fibonacci level. So that means it's possible we may have a retracement back to the trend line. It's 50-50, it may not, but we need to watch all these levels. We have a resistance, we have a rejection, we have a Fibonacci level all aligning together. Let's just watch how it plays out. So like I said, we may end up having an inverse head and shoulder and a breakout, or price may just break this level once and for all and make its way to the upside. Either way it goes, we are really ready for it. Now, if price breaks all levels, either as an inverse head and shoulder or complete breakout, at least to Fibonacci, the next Fibonacci level is Fibonacci 38.2. Price can give us as much as 80 pips. Fibonacci 50 can give as much as 168 pips, and the Fibonacci 61.8 can give as much as 247, let's just say 250 pips. So between 80 and 250 pips is possible on this instrument this week, this particular week we're on. So the swing trader, don't sleep on this one. You're a day trader. You just need to wait for a breakout, possibly a retest, and that can help you make entry on a lower time frame, to trigger your buy. Basically, however you want to trade Euro AUD this week, you are not looking for a sell. You are only looking for a buy. Either on 1 hour, either on 4 hour, either on 15 minutes. The idea is the trend, the overall trend. So regardless of the strategy you're using, just make sure you are only looking out for a buy. That's the direction for the week. All right, so the next is the Euro NZD. Now for the Euro NZD, again, we go to the weekly time frame. Now, what I'm doing is called top-down analysis, looking at trend on the higher time frame and entry on the lower time frame. On the weekly time frame for the Euro NZD, we have price bouncing off an overall bullish trend. These are higher lows, and higher low. Now, this recent higher low, let me zoom out. All right. This is a reversal pattern. It's a tweezer bottom. A tweezer bottom is a candlestick pattern that forms like a set of twins. We have a bearish and a bullish. So it indicates a reversal from downtrend to uptrend. And they normally have the lower shadow almost the same, exactly the same size or almost the same size. So this is a tweezer bottom. That's an indication of a bullish movement on Euro NZD this week. This is the weekly time frame. If you take it down to the daily time frame, we can clearly see there was a massive bullish candle that closed on Friday, indicating the buyers have taken over the market. The market was in a retracement downtrend, but then the buyers took over. Now we should also not forget that there was on the daily time frame, all this region was a range. Price was ranging. Then the buyers pushed the price up. That is equally an indication of a massive bullish sentiment on the Euro NZD. And if you take it down to the 4-hour time frame, on the 4-hour, we can clearly see that that range ended up forming a double bottom pattern. Price has clearly broken out above the neckline. We can still draw our trend line here and a second one to form a falling wedge pattern. So we're very, now you can see price has clearly broken out above the trend, the trend line of the falling wedge pattern. So we are actually in a bullish trend on the Euro NZD, just like we are on the Euro AUD. But then we should not neglect the fact that there's a minor resistance here and price hit that resistance, and we can see there is likelihood of a retracement. So I strongly believe we may have a retracement down, but ultimately price will still break out to the upside. So we're still very bullish on the Euro NZD. We only need to make entry when price breaks above this resistance on the 4-hour time frame. So what's the potential profit on this one also? The first level is Fibonacci 50, and that's about 44 pips. Fibonacci 61.8 can give as much as 119 pips, and Fibonacci 78.6 can give as much as 229 pips. So between 44 and let's just say 200 pips is possible on this instrument in the course of this week. Today is still Monday, so there's opportunity for a lot of movement this week. So we're bullish on Euro AUD and GBP AUD. Now next is the GBP AUD. For those joining us, I mentioned earlier that I'm only looking at 4 instruments this week: the Euro AUD, the Euro NZD, the GBP AUD, and the GBP NZD. So we've analyzed the Euro AUD and the Euro NZD. We're now looking at the GBP AUD, after which we look at the GBP NZD. Now for the GBP AUD, the candle, this is the candle that closed on Friday on the weekly time frame. So why do we look at the higher time frame? Because the market often goes more. The higher time frames give better uh, direction for the market compared to lower time frame. Good morning, Galaxy 821, but I'll prefer you put your real name so that we can know who is saying hi to us this morning. So we can see clearly that price closed on a very valid support level on the weekly time frame. That's an indication of a possible bullish movement this week. Okay, so let's use the box. Fine. So we can see that price closed on a valid support zone. So technically, we are looking for a bullish movement this week. That's on the weekly time frame. On the daily, well, this is not a tweezer bottom because the shadows are up, but notwithstanding, if you want to ignore the shadows, even looking at the body alone, the real body of the candles, we have a perfect reversal candlestick pattern here. So we still have a bullish outlook. And taking it down to 4-hour time frame. Now on the 4-hour time frame, we can clearly see an inverse head and shoulder pattern where price is presently around the neckline region. Price is at the neckline region. So once price breaks above the neckline, this is inverse shoulder, head, second shoulder, and a breakout. So once price makes a break above this neckline region, we're going to see a massive bullish movement on the GBP AUD. And we have a falling wedge pattern to support this. Now you can see that price is just around the neckline and the trend line. We need a clear breakout. Otherwise, price may just make a way down. But let's just be hopeful that we can have a clear breakout to the upside. And from then, price can continue, going in the bullish direction. Good morning, Madam Onaji. So we're very bullish on the GBP AUD this week. Again, the profit potential on this, uh, should look at the next Fibonacci level, which is Fibonacci 50. That's about 50 pips. Fibonacci 1.8 is about 100 pips. Fibonacci 70.6 is about 168 pips. So between 50 and 168 pips movement is possible on this instrument this week. Good morning, Mr. Charlie Chooks. So we're very bullish on the GBP AUD, and finally, like I said, the GBP NZD. Now, for the GBP NZD, on the weekly time frame, the overall trend is very, very bullish. Now you can see price, making a lot of higher lows, higher lows, higher low, and another higher low. Now, the candle that closed last week didn't just form a higher low, it formed a rejection candle, a doji, which technically will see price, break out to the upside this week. And on the daily time frame, well, we can't really call it a bullish engulfing. We just have a bigger candle, way bigger than the previous one, but it's still telling us of a strong bullish sentiment. But on the 4-hour time frame, this is my outlook on this. We're looking for an upward breakout, right? But then this one is it requires some measure of experience to crack this one. Okay. Now, even though we're looking for a breakout, I can see clearly there's a support turn resistance around this region. I'm seeing what may try to look like an inverse head and shoulder here for a breakout. If that works, all well and good. But basically what we're looking out for is for price to be above this support turn resistance, because that's the area that could change the dynamics of the trade. Because if price comes in and does not break the support turn resistance, it will fall. Maybe go back for a breakout later, but ultimately what we're looking out for is a break above this area for us to trigger a buy on the GBP NZD. So we're bullish on the GBP NZD. Good morning, Mr. Sojo Bilano. Very bullish on the GBP NZD. So we have 4 instruments to look out for this week. And like I said, for those who are trading, they are all swing, all set up is swing. But for those who are trading lower time frame, the idea is a direction. So if you're trading 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, we are only looking for a buy on all these instruments: Euro AUD, Euro NZD, GBP AUD, GBP NZD. If your strategy can give you a buy, regardless of the time frame, you are all good. That's the direction for all these 4 instruments this week. Now let's now tidy this up with the fundamentals, the impact of the fundamentals. Now, what led to most of this movement started with the fundamental of last week and back to Forex Factory. For the Euro pairs, for Euro AUD and the Euro NZD, we really didn't have much Euro-based news last week. We didn't have much. For the GBP, there was GDP monthly, and it came out good for the British pound. So that is an also prelim GDP quarterly, even though this one came out actually quarter forecast, but the green one will definitely push it, to the upside. So we can see the impact of this was on Thursday. We can see the impact of the news on GBP on both the GBP AUD and the GBP NUSD, because both of them now they are having bullish sentiment as a result of the outcome of the news last week. Like I said, for euro, holiday, not seeing anything much. But the British pound, we can see clearly the effect of the news. Now, if you take it down to, so we can see what led to the movement we are seeing on the GBP AUD and the GBP NZD. So what about this week? This week, we're going to be having claimant count change tomorrow. Now, if these two news come out good for the pound, that's what will break out both the GBP AUD and the GBP NZD. Because if you have a continuity in a bullish breakout, just like it happened last Thursday, if it happened again tomorrow, that will shoot price to the upside. Again, on Wednesday, there will be CPI. If it also comes out good for the British pound, it will shoot it up again in the bullish direction that we have seen, which we are watching. Now, for the AUD, because we're having news from Australia. So we're looking at the AUD, Euro AUD, and the GBP AUD. Now, for the news from Australia, employment change, unemployment rate. If the news comes out, let's talk about the GBP AUD. Now we're seeing that we're bullish on the British pound. We need the news to come out bad for the Australian dollar, so that as the GBP is going up, the AUD is going down. That will lead to a massive bullish breakout for both the GBP AUD and the Euro AUD. So the data this week on Australian dollar comes out bad, while the one from the British pound exactly goes good. That will lead to a massive bullish movement on the GBP AUD and even the Euro AUD. Again, while the news from Australia if it comes out bad for the Australian dollar, and the flash services PMI from the Eurozone, if they all come out to be good, or if most of them, we have 4 events, if most of them comes out to be good, that will still lead to a massive bullish movement on Euro AUD for this week. On and on like that. Even the British pound, again, if the data comes out all good for the British pound, that will lead to the massive bullish movement on both the GBP AUD and the GBP NZD. So this is how we can, filter our trades with the fundamentals, and it helps making our trade better, because we are not only looking purely at the technical, we are also combining it with the fundamental. That is the economic reports that are being released from these countries. So it's just good that these are the instrument we are looking at. There are corresponding news events coming up this week on those particular instruments. So if they come out in the direction of our analysis, don't waste time in taking the trade in that direction. Like I said, we are bullish on Euro AUD, we are bullish on Euro NZD, we are bullish on GBP AUD, and we're bullish on the GBP NZD. All right, that'll be all from our analysis for today. I'll take a few questions as we begin to round up rather. Don't forget, we have our physical training session both at the Abuja and Lagos office on Tuesdays and Thursdays by 11 a.m. And we have online training sessions Monday, Wednesday by 4 p.m. Do join us for all these sessions. Okay, Francis is asking me to check gold. Darlington White is asking me to check DJ30, US30, USD JPY. You're welcome, Mr. Anyetiakpan. All right. So let's start with the dollar index. Yeah, Madam Onaja, I knew you meant USDX, not USCX.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so for the USDX, that's the dollar index price. Overall, we had a massive bullish upward movement on this instrument, and currently is trading after forming a double bottom pattern. So technically, the dollar is expected to gain more strength. We're expecting more strength on the dollar, because of the double bottom pattern that we're seeing on the dollar index. So with that being said, let's look at USD JPY like someone requested. Now this is USD JPY on the weekly time frame. Overall trend is bullish. Price has formed a series of higher low, higher low, higher low. We have a rejection candle the previous week. Last week was bullish, so technically we will still have a bullish movement this week. However, there is a little constraint here. We have a resistance very close on the weekly time frame. We also have a minor support turn resistance here. So we may have a slight movement downwards, then a breakout upwards to the resistance up there. So that's a projected movement of the USD JPY, a slight movement downwards and a breakout to the upside. So we're bullish on the USD JPY. We check gold. Now I need to rush up with the other ones because my battery is really running low. Okay, I'm not getting gold. Maybe I need to open a fresh page. Okay, I think I've seen it. Now, US and Iran, they've not really said anything in recent time because that actually has been what drives the price of gold in recent time. But then technically, gold seems to be at a confluence point. Normally, when we have the dollar index bullish, gold will be bearish. But at the moment, gold is at a confluence point. Okay, let me take it to this 4 hour. Wow, we have a massive rejection candle on the daily time frame for gold. See, sometimes that rule of if one is dollar index is bearish, gold is bullish, sometimes there are exceptions. Sometimes there are exceptions to it. But it looks like maybe we are at the point of that exception. You can see that there's an upward movement on the daily time frame on gold, and the candle, I saw a rejection candle now, but okay, let me check the 4 hour. Okay, on the 4 hour time frame, we saw a massive rejection candle. We might be expecting a bullish movement on gold. Now, sometimes if it happens, it doesn't mean that the dollar index will now, it may just be a retracement. One of it will just find a way to even out the other. If gold forms an inverse head and shoulder like this, we may see some upward movement, on gold. While this 4 hour, while this forms the neckline region. But I would advise you trade gold with caution because normally if the dollar index is bullish, gold should be bearish. But then this is what we're saying. As a technical trader, you trade what you see. I'm seeing an inverse head and shoulder form. If it completes and price breaks out to the upside, you may take a buy on gold. And also we need to watch the fundamentals. Listen to any breaking news on the situation between US and Iran. If hostilities continue, definitely that will lead to a breakout to the bullish direction on gold. So this bullish may not be because the dollar index, may not be because it's negating the dollar index. No, it could be the fundamentals is trying to point us to the fact that an event is about to happen between US and Iran, which may lead to maybe an escalation, which may lead to a bullish breakout on gold. All right, so I've attended to the dollar index, the USJPY gold. So I'll just attend to US 30 and DJ 30 and I'll be done. Now, US 30 and DJ 30, most of the time, they move in the same direction. So the sentiment on them most of the time is usually the same. Sorry, did I say US 30, DJ 30? DJ 30, US 30 is the same thing as DJ 30. On our platform is labeled as DJ 30. So it's the same, it's one and the same instrument. It's the Dow Jones Industrial Index from the United States. So what you see on our platform is DJ 30, but it's the same thing as the US 30. All right. Okay, now um a rising wedge pattern was formed on this last week, and price actually broke out to the downside. So what's going to happen this week? Let's check. Let me start from the weekly. On the weekly time frame, there has been a range for quite some time. Price has been ranging. This is a massive range, and that resulted into the rising wedge pattern, which we can see made price to drop. All right. Now we can see clearly here that we have a bearish engulfing candlestick pattern. So there's a possibility for price to drop, lower, at least touching those recent low because of the bearish engulfing candlestick pattern. We need to check. Let's see if there's a corresponding resistance. In the tip, very close, we seem to have a form of resistance, though not exactly on the point, but extremely very close to it. So technically, we should be looking for a further bearish movement. So let's take it down to the 4-hour time frame now. So on the 4-hour, like I said, we have a rising wedge pattern. Price has broken out. We may have a retracement back to a previous level, which is now going to form as a support tone resistance. That is this region. So price may push up back to this previous support tone resistance, then drop further downwards. So if it happens that way, then price may target these two levels as profit taking level, this level, and if the volatility is strong, it may drop to the second major level down there. So we're still bearish on the DJ30. All right, that'll be all from my analysis this morning. This is the weekly outlook. Please stay safe and have a wonderful week ahead. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, sir. We
You're
are
welcome.
very grateful.